At this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of today's agenda, but I do need to ask that we amend it to allow for public comments immediately before our new business, if that is agreeable to everyone. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion, and please identify yourself for the record.
Felicia Gavin, I move that we adopt the agenda with the added addition to public comments.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sandra McKernan, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Board members, you have received an amended draft version of the July 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. If you will remember that during that meeting, the board unanimously voted in executive session to raise Dr. Karmacharia's salary to $154,000 effective August the 1st. The minutes from that meeting did not reflect the specific action taken, and the new draft includes the specific salary increase. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have some questions. So during this meeting, this was the one that I missed, and I had questions about it on my own as far as like, I guess, trying to figure out why did state personnel push back and what did they require? Like, what was the pushback? Because it's on here.
They asked
They
for
requested.
asked us to amend the minutes
Hmm.
to allow, to be a little more specific as to the action that was taken in executive session.
And so can we, I guess I'm asking, what are the specifics?
Those are the specifics.
Okay.
They just wanted the minutes to be a little more detailed. They were
Okay.
too vague for their
Okay.
folks.
And then my other question, again, I asked this prior, but I just would like to hear again as to what kind of warranted the increase, the significant increase, because, you know, there hasn't been an increase on the portfolio, like I mentioned the last time. There are no evaluations that should say that we should warrant this. So just being sensitive to, you know, and trying to be good stewards of the money that we are, you know, overseeing. I'm just trying to make sure that, you know, wanting to know a little bit more about the pay raise.
Yet that we were presented information at the meeting that had several cross-references of that. The states that originally were set up, and Ben, you may have to jump in and help me. There were 3 states that originally
Can I
were.
make a point of order?
Oh, sure.
I think this was discussed in executive session
Mhm.
and should not be being discussed right now in open session.
Okay.
So if we would like to discuss this again, we probably should go into executive session.
Would you like to go into executive session, or?
If you plan to share more, yes, please.
I've shared that information with you by email, I believe.
I don't remember that particularly, not specifically as it relates to pay raise.
Do you have the language? What would we need to do to go into executive session? We would need to get a motion in a second.
We need to do a motion to go into closed session to consider going into executive session.
So we just leave this other one hanging?
And I want to see if anybody else has any questions. Because for me, if I'm the only one that has questions, that will also determine to me whether we need to go into executive session or not.
Okay.
I have concerns.
We should go into the closed session to determine. So you would ask for a motion that says, I'll ask for a motion for us to go into closed determination. Can you print that out?
What happens to the motion that's already on the
Yeah,
floor?
that's what I was gonna ask. I mean, I don't want to be in, but the motion is to consider amending the minutes
Right,
to reflect what the SPB needed.
right.
So the motion is not.
To go, right.
Right.
So can we?
The motion
do
is
we
not
cons-
about the salary.
That's
the amount.
correct.
It's okay.
Right. The
Just
motion is
amend
to amend the minutes to reflect so that the minutes can be submitted to the State Personnel Board.
Can we
So-
take a vote on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any additional discussion? Okay, at this time, the motion on the floor is to amend the minutes. Being no further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Before I cast my vote, I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. We are voting on this right now. As far as the amendment,
You're voting on adding those words on that paper in front of you to the minutes, which categorizes what, or I guess lines out what happened previously.
right?
So I don't think it is germane to what we would be talking about in executive session, because that would be something that had already happened.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, and I'm going to unmute.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Carney, I'm going to make sure you're unmuted as well. Ms. Whittier emailed and asked if she could, or messaged and asked if she could be unmuted, so she could speak and hear what the conversation is, because I think she was unable to hear what the conversation was. So is that correct, Jennifer?
Or vote.
Or vote. So,
Yeah, I've been unable to vote.
okay, okay. So I think, Mr. Carney, can you still hear me?
Yes, I'll just mute individually, but I can hear.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we've got you guys unmuted, and you should be able to hear us clearly. And if everybody at the table could speak up clearly so that our folks on Zoom can hear and the people on the live stream can hear as well. So that would be really helpful. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
So since y'all couldn't vote, I'll ask again for the vote. All those in favor of amending the minutes, please cast your vote again so that we can add Jennifer and, Ms. Whittier and Mr. Carney to let them vote. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. So do we? Okay. Is there a motion that the board consider making a closed determination of the need to go into executive session? Is there a motion?
One of us has to make a motion to do that.
And
It
there's
makes a motion if it's necessary, yes, that we go into executive session. Sandra McCray.
Is there a second?
second Candace Robbins.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion.
Any opposed?
No.
The motion carries. At this point, we'll clear the boardroom.
The board voted not to go into executive session, so we're back in open session.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to go back to the agenda. And at this point, we are going to use the amended agenda to open the floor for public comment. We have with us today Representative Tamika James Jones, who is from the 51st District of the Mississippi House, and she's with us to make a few comments. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. I am indeed, I appreciate you all taking the time and of course to amend the agenda to include public comments. I saw that the agenda included, of course, Archway Charter School, which is located in Belzona. I'm a lifelong resident of Belzona, only left to go to college at Jackson State University and then come back home. Of course, I've been a public official now a very long time. If I say how long, you all may be able to find out how old I am. But with that being said, I just wanted to let you all know that I appreciate your work. However, for what I'm here for.
Stopped.
Excuse us.
I don't know if that's a sign or not.
No. I don't know why. It was Zoom, so can you all still hear us okay? Jay?
Yes.
Jennifer? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I apologize for that. Again, technology is,
It's good when it's good and when it's bad, it's also
Bad,
bad.
that's
I do
right.
understand.
so thank you.
And of course, that leads us, one of the questions I have in moving toward the segue as to the concerns that I'm here for. I've had a chance to kind of look over a little bit of the options that's been provided for Archway. And I noticed that in the proposal, there are like 3 weeks of virtual schooling and 1 week of in-person. Pretty concerned about that. The Mississippi Delta, of course, as you all know, is a very vast land, very rural. And of course, during COVID, we really found out how much we were needing of broadband. Of course, I know that the state of Mississippi is working very tirelessly to make sure and ensure that we have broadband and internet throughout the state. However, we have places that are like without internet. So my question and concern is with Archway being virtual for those number of weeks, how will the students actually, have an opportunity to continue forward in their education? And even in that, how will they advance, having those opportunities? A couple of other things, of course, that's most important because they've got to be able to get the education and of course, to be able to have contact with teachers in order to move forward. A little bit of concern. Of course, I'm a lifelong resident of Humphreys County, been there all my life, like I mentioned before. And I kind of looked and I noticed there was only, in the letters of support, there was one individual. There were 3 letters that were submitted, according to what I saw online, and one individual, of course, who is a return to Humphreys County. He's been away quite some time, but I did not see any of support from, any of the parents, any of the teachers, and that's concerning to me. And I don't know how the project moves forward without having, closer support, especially of parents of, children that are actually in the county. So this is pretty concerning. I know that our school district, our high school, has approximately 477 students. And the request for this charter school that will be coming is looking at a range between 200 to 250 students. Well, if that's the case, that's almost half of our public schools that's already in existence. And so that's pretty concerning. The public school, of course, Humphreys County is only one industry for the most part outside of the school and government. If you all look, I know you have done a lot of research and studies. Our public school is our greatest employer. So with that being said, there is a concern. What will happen? What's the economic impact of our school district and folks simply being employed? That's very concerning. And these are things that I've not heard any information concerning. I don't know if this is a part of the conditions for which which you all are considering for today. I just really want to know where we are with that. Of course, food. Will the children be fed there? Will they be fed at home? As you all know, they just, being a mom, children, 3 weeks at home during the month, school year round, how will that affect parents that are probably, not gonna be there? When we had this portion of COVID, essentially the world shut down. So there were parents that were at home. But now that we're full open, we're back at work. Humphreys County has probably over 60% of its workforce that works outside of the county. So we have parents that are going to work at Pikens, LaFleur County. We have parents that are coming to work at Madison, Amazon, all different places. Milwaukee Tools in LaFleur County, Sunflower County, there's Dollar General. So my concern is we're gonna have children that are home. Who's gonna be at home with them while they're supposed to be in school? These are deep concerns that not only that I've had, but my constituents have come to me now and asking questions with the plan as it is being presented. Those are very strong concerns. So that kind of leaves us where we are. And of course, if it's approved, we have the 2025 session that's coming up in January, and I'll be there. And my question is, okay, are we gonna have funding for Archway starting 2025? No one's talked to the legislator about things that are going on there in the district. So these are kind of things that we're really, really having questions about. And we wanted to just find out if you all can give us these answers, and if these are part of the conditions for which Archway will move forward. If there are any questions, I'm more than willing to answer what I can. Of course, my constituents are very concerned. Our school teachers at the public school are very concerned because many of them, like I said, the school is our largest employer. Outside of the school and those that are employed with the government, county government, we have one catfish factory that's open full-time. That's it. That's all that our county has. So we're deeply, deeply concerned. And really want to know about the conditions for which Archway will move forward.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Well, I'll say a comment. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your concerns. They are very valid, and I just thank you for that. And then also, I just kind of want to say to you, with Archway, in my mind, it's kind of considered another option. It's not something to replace the school district. And you have a lot of parents who are going to say, I'm not taking my kids out of this school. They love, I went to school here, and you may have a handful of parents who may decide they want to try it out because they may work from home and they are able to be fed in some of those things that some of the concerns you have with broadband. It may be a family like that it works better for, because you have some parents, I know some people now who homeschool and they do have taken some other virtual routes because they actually enjoy having that access to their children, that one-on-one. So this is kind of in my opinion, just another option, but nothing to replace what you guys already have existing.
So will Archway provide the hotspots? Will they provide laptops? Because we have so many students that will be without laptops because the only laptops that some students will get or have right now are those of the Chromebooks that are provided by the public school. So will Archway provide those? Will they provide hotspots? Will they provide broadband? We're pretty curious about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so basically that's something actually one of the items on our agenda that we're even talking about when it comes to like the internet access. And so those are questions that we're asking as well. So some of those questions that you have, if you want us to ask those, that I'm sure some of us are curious as well of like how are those things. I know Dr. Gavin mentioned some things and Marcy over here mentioned some things when we talked about it the last time. So just know that we hear you and that those questions are being asked. So. But I can't answer for Archway. I can't speak for them, but that is something we're definitely looking into. I don't know if Lisa, if you wanted to Dr. Lisa, if you want to speak into that, or you don't know,
About,
Archway, I don't know.
about whether or not they have broadband or
Well,
they
not the
have
broadband,
computers.
computers, laptops, or.
They
if-
have, if you looked in their budget, they do have a plan to purchase. I don't know how many, but they do have a plan and a line item in their budget to purchase computers for the students.
And even with that being said, purchasing computers is not purchasing access to the internet. And you're talking 3 weeks that students will be home. And from the statistics that we have, and that we've seen, there aren't that many parents that have homeschooling in Humphreys County.
Mhm.
That number is very small compared to the number of parents that work outside of the county. So that's really concerning. Who's gonna be in charge of the kids with childcare and the likes thereof? That's really concerning. So we're just asking you all to make sure that when you are asking about those conditions, that those are addressed, before moving forward.
I agree, and in the beauty of the charter schools, it's one of those things is they meet a need if there is a need. Hypothetically, Archway opens up and no one signs up. That's not a problem you have to worry about anymore. So it's kind of one of those things. There may be 5 families that see the benefit here, and if it is, I would like to explore giving them the opportunity. But if it's not a need and people don't sign up, guess what? They don't open.
And I understand that, but this is hypothetical. I wanna look at the real reality of it. And I know that from the reality of it, that I have constituents that do not have internet access. And that's important, even when we're considering moving forward. That I would think that things would have to already be in place before moving forward. So that's rather concerning.
I think I'm kind of lost because I guess I'm.
May I make a statement?
Sure, Jennifer.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam, I agree with you on every point you made. I am likewise concerned about every point you made. And as a retired teacher, we know how difficult it is to work with in an inadequate situation where there is no broadband, where there are no hotspots. There are so many questions that need to be answered. There are so many red flags that are up for me. But I want you to know that I do share your concerns. One of my other concerns is the fact that Mr. Herndon is not with you all today or with us today, and that's concerning to me. We need their administration, we need their leaders to at least show up and speak and give us some answers about what they expect us to plan to do. But for what it's worth, I'm with you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Representative James Johns. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you all so much for allowing me.
Of course. At this point, we'll move on to our new business, following board action from October the 28th, 2024, to set a special called meeting to determine the pre-opening conditions for Archway Charter School. Board members received communications from Dr. Karmacharya. The information included a reference to student enrollment, access to the internet, and financials, and is available to all of you for your review and for your consideration. In order to begin discussion, I will entertain a motion at this time. Would someone like to make a motion in regards to the information that has been provided to the board members?
Oh. We're at 5A, right? No, sorry, 4A.
For discussion of the information,
No, we're making a motion, yeah. I think that's where we are.
Yes, ma'am, I've asked for, is there a motion around the consideration information that has been provided to board members?
I so move.
On which one,
To approve or
to approve all of them?
On the discussion of the information provided.
Are you making a motion to approve all of these?
No,
considerations?
I thought this was a motion to discuss it. It's difficult to hear.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's difficult to hear, and I regret that I'm not there today. But I guess disregard my motion.
Yes, ma'am. Is there another motion from a board member?
To make on the basically approval of the conditions to the open archway, which will lead us into a discussion, right?
That's correct.
But you gotta make the, I'll make the motion, Candace Robbins.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna discuss this, correct? Is that what
Right.
we're doing?
No, the,
Then you can discuss it.
Yeah.
Conditions.
To approve the conditions that we asked about last time, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
so a motion has been made to approve the conditions to open Archway Charter School. And it has also been seconded. At this point, is there any discussion?
Jennifer, I think you wanted to say something during the discussion part.
No, I just wanted to hear what everybody else had to say about it. I've stated what I think about it.
So currently, the motion on the table is to approve these three conditions. Is that correct?
That we talked about
That we
last time.
talked about last
Yeah.
time. Student enrollment, student internet access, and the financial amended budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also just to note what Jordan gave us, this is also their requirements that are on here and timelines, target deadlines for other items that aren't listed here, but before any school can be open. And it all addresses governance and management, financial things, staffing, XYZ. So those things wouldn't be able to take place had they not met these things on here.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. As far as the student internet access, what has our conversation been with Archway on that?
There hasn't been any conversation. So once you all have approved the application, then the next step is to enter into negotiations around the contract. So we step back from that point because the board has read and determined that they were in a position to be able to open and operate in the fall of 25. And so because you all asked at the last meeting to have a special called meeting, that special called meeting was to determine any additional conditions above and beyond those that were already in the pre-opening and attached to the contract. The way that the minutes read and the way that we understood the board's, prerogative at that point. So there has not been any conversation between myself and leadership, governing board, or other than to say, we're having a meeting and we'd love you to come. Outside of that, and they did receive the resolution that Marcy signed to say the board approved on a 5-2 vote to approve that particular school. So that's the only other conversation to your question, Dr. Gavin.
Okay, so as far as it relates to the student internet access, it says here, provide proof of internet access in the home for enrolled students by March 31st and again by May 31st. When will we know when will we have the proof that students are actually enrolled?
Those same dates.
Yeah.
If you look up
At
above,
the
those
top,
same dates
yeah.
would be.
Yeah, because these things were I think the concerns came from you and Marcy, and so we kind of asked them to bring us back the concerns that you guys had and created something that was ideally feasible for Archway to be able to meet on top of the regular standard things that they're supposed to do.
So we say 40% of the enrollment by March 31st has been met, and so that 40%, they also have to provide proof that 40% had, and if the student did not have internet, would they be denied enrollment?
That's really, I think, up
Is
to
that
the
something
board
that
and
we
a
need to
part of
decide?
it.
I think what we were gonna say is if they did not have access to high-speed internet at their homes, that the school would then be required to provide a hotspot to that family to allow for that student to join.
Yeah,
and be
and
able
it
to
says
participate
on
in
here
class.
too, yeah. They did.
Dr. Gavin, were you asking about enrollment then, like 40% of the enrollment? 40% would have been 40% of
What was their
208.
total? How many were they?
208 is their, yes, ma'am, for this year,
Oh,
for
okay.
Yeah.
25, 26, yes.
Yeah.
They would, right.
Mm-hmm. So it'll show you, so these are the things that we were added based off of, you and Marcy's, recommendations, suggestions.
And to your other question then about the budget and have we had any conversation about, all of that is in the narrative and in the budget information that board members received in the application. And then Dr. Herndon describes how he'll accommodate those things in the application.
Well, it was, from what I've read, they got the message yesterday morning, the invite. And so, well, I mean,
Yes. They
so
got
it's a
me-
hard turnaround, in my opinion, for anybody to be able to just kind of show up. I'm not sure, but
They got an email yesterday from me, after I had met with council and we had determined, the board had determined what date that we would have it, and then it was posted. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were aware that the meeting was gonna be.
I'm not saying they
today.
weren't aware. I
Yeah.
was just saying they just found out
Yeah,
yesterday
yeah, after
morning.
council and conversation with them that we needed to invite them to the
Yeah.
meeting. We had not originally planned to invite them. And after I met with council with, from Butler Snow and then with Amy
Yeah.
as well, the decision was made, to go ahead and invite them
Yeah.
to the meeting. And then when we understood that they couldn't attend today, we punted that and said, it's fine if you guys come then.
Mhm.
It'll give the board a
Mhm.
significant amount of time to hash out all the
Yeah.
questions that you have, all the information that you need, whether it's related to budget or enrollment or whatever it is, gives you guys plenty of time to come to the table together and talk about this one particular item, solidify your conditions that you'd like to add to, and then have Dr. Herndon and his board chair, because Dr. Herndon won't be able to negotiate or sign the contract. His board chair will have to do that. So he would need to be a part of the conversation for sure. And then he responded today and said that he would be here and do everything he could to have his board chair here on the 9th.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Understanding the connectivity issues are important for everybody,
Right.
and Dr. Hernan and his board chair can't be here till the 9th. Are we in a position to not make these condition determinations today and do that on the 9th when we can get answers from them?
I'm gonna let the board members respond and then I'll respond after that, if that's okay.
I think, I feel like these are the minimum requirements. And we would be okay to go ahead and, I mean, we could always amend them if we passed them today, correct?
Yeah, of course, yes, of course, but Ben, to your point though, I don't think that these are conditions that, yes, they need to be, involved in and understand because they're above and beyond those standard conditions, and they'll be written into the contract. So there'll be terms that are outside of the normal. So, but I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that there is going to be a way for them to answer your question, like how many kids can we, you know what I mean? Or who can have access to broadband? How many, I don't think they'll be able to do that today or
Yeah.
December the 9th.
Yeah, probably
I
till
think
they
those are
start getting
things
that stuff.
that are just outside of their control or our control at this point. I think what we're trying to do is put some parameters in place. Again, going back to what I said last month about taking a calculated risk and being willing to, at whatever level you're, comfortable with, to say that this school is going to be able to meet these conditions and then open and operate in a way that's legal, decent, and in order and serve kiddos come the fall of 2025. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that, so.
I remember at our last meeting, something was said about a November 20th deadline. Do you remember that, Amy?
Yes.
Today, right?
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
had to be able to do some, yeah.
That was to approve.
That was to approve,
Yeah.
and we went
We
ahead
already
and
So we
approved.
approved,
met
yeah.
that
We
yeah,
did,
met
yes,
that.
sir. That was that
Yeah.
Now I'm
180,
talking about,
yes.
The conditions,
The
and so.
180, yes, 180
But
days.
another question is,
be able to do what he needs to do by the first
Yeah.
time, May, is that
March
March? I mean,
31st.
That's not much time.
Well, schools also have a year that they can defer, am I correct?
They have one
That's
delay.
right, they
They have
can-
1 year that they can defer
Right,
and delay
right,
if
yeah,
they
I
wish to do
understand
so.
that, yeah. But they
Yeah.
won't be opening in 25 at this rate. I mean,
That's their proposal.
that's just.
Yes,
an
their
idea.
proposal is to open in 2025 with 208 children. And to serve them in that method of, that they proposed. So that is their proposal. And they do know that there's an option to delay. They have an option, the law allows for that for one time, and then if they delayed longer, you'll remember that we've had other schools to do that. If they delayed longer, then they have to ask for board approval to do so. But they've been made aware that that's an option for them. Then that will be up to them, as my understanding. Is that helpful?
I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if they were to delay a year,
Mhm.
if they were to do that and they had to, you said they had to come back to to us, to authorize the board?
If they delay a year, well, they would need to get
Beyond
approval
a
from
year.
their board. Yes, beyond that first year, then our board has to approve their request for a delay.
So if Humphreys County is still a C,
It's already in,
approved,
yes.
Y'all approved at the previous
It-
meeting, so now it's.
Yes.
even if we had to come back to this board?
That's
it
right.
still stays?
Right.
That's right.
Because you're voting to delay their application for opening.
Their opening, not their application. That's right.
Their application's approved.
That's right.
And so, okay, I have another follow-up on the internet access, because it is a real concern for me with kids being 3 weeks. It says proof must be provided by Archway, certifying hotspots will be provided to students who lack home internet service. My understanding from people that live in that area and administrators that are in the Humphreys County School District, even if you provide hotspots don't work in the most rural part of Humphreys County. So should there be some added language that speaks to, they'll provide those hotspots, but they're functional as well, so that they have access to the internet.
Functional.
They're functional, yeah.
I think those are, again, great questions for the board.
And I would also like to see us consider that they have enough hotspots, not just for the students that are, that don't have internet access, but a few extra because the service is not always reliable. They may need a few extra for periods of time where the service is down. I know the state is working diligently to expand out there, but there's still a large percentage of Humphreys County that does not have high-speed internet service. So I think it should be a little more than a one-to-one match, if that makes sense.
So I guess I'm a little concerned about having an affirmative requirement on a private entity to provide hotspots in this specific context. And the reason is, obviously, they have to have access to the internet, right? Every student does, but that's gonna be true for every student, right? So what you're kind of baking into this assumption is that students who apply and are interested in this will have access to internet in some form or fashion. I know there's questions about how they get that, but that's part of the assumption. So I would like to see a consideration of giving Archway some flexibility rather than a hard requirement of you have to provide them a hotspot, to maybe soften it a touch and really broaden it a touch to say that Archway has to ensure that each student has internet access, because that can be done in a lot of different ways. Hotspot is just one way, right? There may be third-party grants. There may be, I think, a cable company that's running new fiber. There may be Starlink, as somebody mentioned last time. There may be all of these other things that I don't want to put too specific of a requirement on Archway for the internet access, because the key is connectivity. It's not the specific hotspot, if that makes sense. And maybe I'm not articulating that entirely
That's
correctly,
very clear.
but I mean, y'all know how technology is moving so fast. I just don't know what it could even look like in a
I don't
year.
disagree. I hear exactly what you're saying, but having said that, I would also like to be sure that whatever they provide, and you're right, we shouldn't specify
The means.
the
of
means
That's why
of
we
it,
get into the
but that it
weeds
can
of
be
it.
done remotely. I don't think I think it defeats the purpose of the fact that the way that they've set the school up, if the only way they can do that is to get a room at a library and put the children in there. I think that also creates a whole nother
Yeah,
set of concerns with classrooms and our students learning different ways. And, we've had that, as y'all know, we've had that concern at other schools where they have many classrooms of many different ages in one big room, and hearing and all that kind of stuff is difficult. So I agree, it shouldn't necessarily be a hotspot, but I think that everyone should have access to the internet remotely.
yeah.
I don't know how we word that.
Well, it's kind of, to me, tied into the enrollment requirement, because if you're going to be fully enrolled and you're going to certify you've got access to the internet, whether it's through your own or some other source that Archway has helped you get, you've kind of met that requirement. Because if they get to May 21st or May 31st and they've got 70% enrollment and they've all confirmed that they have access to the internet, they've met that requirement. They've kind of met both requirements, if that makes sense, regardless of how they're provided. I don't want to talk in circles around it, but
I mean, I agree with that, but I think my point is, I think we're saying the same thing maybe, but I think Archway needs to certify with us that it definitely may not be hotspots, but every student has
access.
adequate access, can connect from their home.
Maybe it's that simple.
But it's not
However
saying,
it is.
but that's not what this is saying here. I guess I'm kind of confused on.
No, it just said they would be provided. It doesn't say I can have a hotspot.
Well, no, it says so it provide internet access in the home for enrolled students. So it says proof must be provided by Archway, certifying hotspots will be provided to students. So that there will be some kind of access to, so I guess I'm just
Functional
wondering, like, are we
access to
specifying even more?
I need to clarify something for the board members, please. Can you guys hear me okay, Jay, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay, I need to clarify something for this. The things that you have before you in terms of the pre-opening conditions that say, those are considerations. You guys may wordsmith these, you may take the dates out, you may add different, those were just things that the lawyers and we worked on together, trying to take into consideration some of your concerns from the last meeting.
Right.
So please don't feel tied to these particular, they were three broad areas that there were some concerns brought about, and then the additional information that you were provided regarding the financials. So you guys have everything. That's what I was saying in the email yesterday. But these are not these are not like rubber stamped. These are just for you all to have talking points around. So then it becomes the board's responsibility at that point to determine what level of comfort you have with respect to these three broad areas. What's important to you? How are you going to wrap a pre-opening condition around that? And then that will ultimately, as I understand, go into the contract outside the normal set of pre-opening conditions. So I hope that helps clear some of that out, Candace, because I think you were thinking that these were tried and true in stone.
Well, no, I didn't think it was tried and true. I guess what I'm saying is, like, I'm okay with this, but if anybody else is not, I'm assuming that I would encourage just the ones who are not to fill in what you would like to see added, and then maybe when we come back, we can agree on extra language that's added, because it's kind of like, for me, I'm okay with what these three things are requesting or just asking for. But if there's some more things that need to be added or taken out, I would just love for that to be already presented in that way.
Well, for me, it's two things. I think the parent has to certify, like it says here, that there's proof of internet access in the home. The parent will certify that.
Right.
But I think the second piece of that is that Archway, somewhere we put a requirement on Archway in order for them to allow that student to enroll. If they don't have home access connectivity, then they're responsible for providing that connectivity, however they do it. Otherwise, they don't allow that student to enroll.
So it's a fail-safe. It
Mhm.
ensures
It's
that
two
whether-
They can't deny enrollment. So this is
Yeah,
open
it's a public-
enrollment,
yeah.
and so they can't deny a student enrollment regardless, other than somebody
Yeah.
who's not in that
Yeah.
district of, so they couldn't say because, and we don't.
I think what Dr. Gavin's proposing here is that if Ben shows up and his parents want to enroll him, but they do not have adequate access. to
Right.
him, the archway is gonna foot the hotspot or whatever means.
Gotcha.
But this already implied in the last thing, right? Proof must be provided by Archway certified hotspots will be provided to the
But
student.
my issue with
Maybe I
that is not
misunderstood.
hotspots, it is the word hotspots. Take that out and say, provide certifying that there's connectivity, because it may not be a hotspot. So it's
Okay, well, so,
whatever the
but
connectivity.
that would encompass hotspots, broadband, anything. I get what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Because
Certified
it,
connectivity.
and it has to be functional, yeah.
Yeah. that
Because
makes
you
sense.
provide a hotspot and the hotspot doesn't work in the rural part of the county.
I just want to be careful to not put too much of a burden on Archway, because if they get in a situation where one family, it's going to cost, it could be cost prohibitive to give somebody internet, depending on where they are and where and what
But
it
it's a
is.
public school, so they would have to,
They have to do it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, public school.
Mhm.
Yeah, free and appropriate public, yeah.
And
They have to provide FAPE
Mhm.
for everybody.
I would be much more conducive to working with them on this if they considered a 2026 opening. I just don't see that things can happen within this short time frame, especially the hotspots and it's taken a very long time to get broadband, even in areas that aren't Delta areas. That's my main concern. So a later opening date to be considered would make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, we're not that far down I guess, when we get to that point. I don't know, but I guess I thought we were just coming to,
So if we approve these
Conditions.
conditions like we've all identified,
yeah.
we still then, the next step would be in
And they still-
December.
and
We
they-
could hear,
Yeah,
we could hear from them directly.
yeah, yeah.
And
They can
amend
answer
these if
all those
needed.
questions. Yeah.
Probably not, but if needed.
Yeah.
And then enter into the contract,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because I don't
Is that
want to
the
make
process?
assumptions about,
So what I hear now
Things.
is, y'all feel free to correct me, but what I'm hearing everyone say is that we certainly want to wordsmith, if you will, the motion or the considerations that have been proposed. And instead of saying hotspots, we're going to say connectivity there, correct?
yeah.
Adequate,
Access.
adequate,
Functional and
adequate internet access is.
Right, I wrote down adequate access.
Adequate internet access, just kind of covers
Adequate.
everything.
Mhm.
Because that's fluid and it changes over time. Right now, I can
adequate
so,
functional.
not going, you can say 500 megabytes, whatever needed for adequate
Upload,
access.
download, yeah.
Right, but this just covers that. If that standard changes, this
No.
changes.
And I don't know if we have to, and then, to me, that doesn't mean that you can connect on your phone because you can't do schoolwork on your phone. You can't say that, oh, I get it on my phone. You can do schoolwork on your phone.
We're using that phrase adequate access allows them some flexibility to figure those details out
Yeah, I don't think we'll be
specifically
able to.
based on their software and their system, upload and download.
We could say adequate internet access to course materials or something
Mhm.
more like that. That's better for
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
That
and to
allow
your
them to do an
teacher, because the
iPad or-
teacher should be live streaming in, or it should be, right, so wherever that person is, because I think the intent is to have teachers from all over the state. So not just teachers in that area,
Correct.
live streaming in to do some of the
Is it synchronous
instruction.
or asynchronous?
But
Would the teachers be on site
no, ma'am,
during that?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, not at all.
not during those 3 weeks, not at all, no, ma'am. The students are at
What
home.
about that? What about that other week? Would teachers be available?
Yeah.
On
Part-
site?
Part of the week. They are, yes, ma'am, on site at the location part of the week. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
What is the location, by the way?
They don't have a facility secured yet. They have an idea where they're going to be located, and they have, I think, a relationship with the people where they propose to work with them. But as far as I know, they don't have a lease yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any more discussion?
Okay, so before that, just to clarify, we are all good with the student enrollment language.
Yes.
And then for student internet access, we're gonna amend that, say provide proof of internet access in the home for enrolled students by March 31st, 2025, and again by May 31st, 2025. Proof must be provided by Archway certifying adequate internet access to course materials. Proof must be provided by Archway certifying adequate internet access to course materials will be provided to students who lack in-home internet access.
Yes.
That's good.
That's what I have.
And then,
Dr. Gavin, does that meet your?
and then under financials, I don't think we,
I think that's good.
So, well, I do have a question about that. So what we say submit an amended budget, and they don't have, what about the pre-opening, those? If they don't have access to, any CSP funds, then what?
I think they're gonna have to show us that they have.
They'll have to
Secured,
demonstrate
yeah.
that they have secured either philanthropic money or that they've secured some grant monies or something to that effect. Just so you know, it typically takes $300,000 to $500,000 to open and operate a school. That's before you get state and local funds. So to get up and rolling, that's a rough estimate, right? Depending on your enrollment, depending on your location, depending on your lease, depending on your transportation, depending on a lot of different things, food services and so forth. So, but on average, 3 to 500,000. So when they applied for the CSP, they were denied the CSP funds through Mississippi First. And so now their pre-opening budget, as far as I know, I mean, again, we hadn't had any conversation with them. They don't have any additional funds to supplement or take the place of the funds that they were anticipating through Mississippi First with the CSP. So if, to Marcy's point, similar to what we had with the other school, then they will have to be able to provide an amended budget for their cash flow. And you guys should have seen that on the Excel spreadsheet.
Mhm.
And then so month by month cash flow to operate, as well as that estimated amount to get the school up and running.
So when do we need this amended pre-opening budget?
That's up to the board. I have to turn in Friday. I have to turn in enrollment to the Department of Education. So I'll have to turn in projected enrollment, similar again to the other situation that we had. I'll turn in those 208 as their projected enrollment for fall of 25.
So do we want this by March 31st as well?
I would think we would need it before the December meeting so we could discuss it.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Dylan.
We need it pretty quick.
Quick, okay.
So that means they would have to have identified another source of funds, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Since, for pre-opening.
and they don't necessarily have to have those in hand yet, but they need to have similar to
Identified,
our previous
Yeah.
situation, like donor letters or something like that.
Yeah, and you said they'll be here December 9th? Did you mention
so we
that?
want them to
So,
present that at that time?
I would say before, so we could review and be prepared for questions on the 9th.
Okay.
9th is
Some Monday.
3 weeks.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks from today. Or 3 weeks from Monday, sorry.
So with next week being Thanksgiving.
the 9th?
Fourth is the Wednesday before
Oh,
the Monday meeting. And it's,
yeah.
You want to go for the 6th, Friday, you go Monday, Tuesday, or
No, the meeting is Monday.
Yeah, the Monday, yeah.
How about noon on the 6th?
that'd be fun. Yeah, noon
I give y'all-
at least.
That would at least give us the weekend to,
Those 2 additional days.
I don't usually say a specific time, but that would be, if we had it by noon, then we we could get that out to everybody.
Seems fair.
Or the budget,
For the
Amended.
for the amended budget.
okay.
So that, you said the target, there's 208 students the first year, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll have to have proof by March 31st that they have 83 students enrolled.
Right.
Do they need to, Lisa, this is maybe a question for you. Do they need to update their calculations on on their budget in the new funding formula? A lot of their assumptions.
I don't know if we're ready for that yet. I think we're gonna have to live with the old process unless Letitia and you could help us with that. Because we haven't transferred over to the new funding formula in our application process yet. Because then it hadn't happened when they applied, that we were still under MAP.
No, I was wondering.
Yeah.
Now that it is in place.
Right. Now, for the
Okay.
new application cycle, we'll need to update the Excel form and make sure that it accommodates all the new formulas.
Are there other questions or concerns?
Give me the time for the 6th again, was it?
Noon. Uh-huh.
Noon on the 6th. There are no further questions. The motion on the table is to approve the consideration for pre-opening conditions for Archway Charter School, as we have amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be on December the 9th, 2024 at 1 p.m. at 239 North Lamar Street, Suite 207 in Jackson. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Please identify yourself for the record.
I so move Candace Robbins.
Is there a second?
A second, Felicia Gavin.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all.
The motion carries. Thank y'all.
Okay.